League fans, it's 17th of April, a Friday, and we've got an NRL game kicking off right now. It's Melbourne, who are on a bit of a losing streak, against Canberra, who were doing slightly better, only slightly better. So it's a big game for all the wrong reasons for the fans of those two clubs, I guess. So the program is going to be maybe the same as usual on a Friday, which is for the first sort of half hour, we'll just keep you up to date with what's happening in that game, score updates and all that sort of thing. And then the last 10 minutes, we'll hear from the Mole with the latest NRL gossip. Now, we've been working on a new program called Hooters, which is about basically a snapshot of the day's games recorded when full-time siren sounds, hence the name, in the final match of that day. If that makes sense, if that criteria makes sense, the concept. So we actually did have one recorded last night after St Helens win over Hull FC, and we've just got to slot in some press conference audio into that, and it might be ready in this hour. You might hear a bit of a taste of Hooters, but if not, as I said, the normal format will be talking about the match, and then we'll be talking to the Mole. Let's go through the teams. The weather at GIO Stadium in Canberra is fine, and for the Raiders, Matthew Timoko is in, and Savalio Tamale is out. So from fullback, K.O. Weeks, Sebastian Chris, Simi Sasanga, Matthew Timoko, Jed Stewart, Ethan Strange, Ethan Sanders, Joe Tupini, captain, Tom Starling, Atta Mariotta, Hudson Young, Zach Hosking, Corey Horsburgh, and the bench, 4 players from the following list of 6: Josh Papali, Noah Martin, Jaden Brayley, Morgan Smithies, Dane Laurie, and Joe Reddy. For the visiting Melbourne Storm, Hugo Peel and Sean Bloor are in, Lazarus Falipu and Moses Leo are out, and from fullback at Sua Falongo, Will Warbrick, Jack Howarth, Mania Watari, Nick Meaney, Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, and the forwards are Stefano Oitukamanu, Captain Harry Grant, Josh King, Joe Chan, Cooper Clark, Trent Liero, and the bench is Tyron Wishart, Alec McDonald, Jack Hetherington, Davey Moali, Sean Bloor, and Hugo Peel. Our referee in the nation's capital is Peter Goff, and our video referee is Liam Kennedy. Happy birthday today to Paul Cook, the former England and Great Britain player who's now an excellent commentator and pundit. And also to Brett Ferris, who played at a bunch of clubs, largely in Yorkshire. So happy birthday to those two fellas. After the break, the first score update from Canberra. Canberra Raiders try disallowed, and that scoreline with 5 minutes gone at GIO Stadium. It's 0-0, Canberra and Melbourne in the NRL. 0-0, Canberra and Melbourne. Simi Sasangi with the first try of this match at GIO Stadium for the Raiders. We're just waiting for the conversion. It was a nice little pass around the back of the defence, and we have points, as I said. So 4-0 Canberra over Melbourne. Ethan Sanders with the conversion for the Canberra Raiders, which took the scoreline out to 6-0 Canberra over Melbourne at GIO Stadium. And then Corey Horsburgh, after a restarted tackle count, after a crossfield kick, the big red, he forces his way over just near the post there. So we're waiting on a conversion. And the Melbourne Storm are in all sorts of trouble. It is Canberra 10, Melbourne 0 with a kick to come. Canberra 10, Melbourne 0 with a Raiders kick to come. Okay, this is going to be quite an involved kind of cross, really, because there's been a lot happening in the game. Firstly, the try was converted by Ethan Sanders. That's the Raiders try. That took the scoreline to 12-0, and then Corey Horsburgh, the try scorer, was penalised in possession for dissent, and within seconds, or at least a minute or two, Jaden Sewer had crossed for Melbourne's first try of the match and injured himself in the process. Now, there is normally not enough time in this Friday show to have any long segments, because we're trying to keep you up to date with the game. And then we had the Mole at half-time in the game. But I'm going to make an exception to introduce you to a new program, Hooters, which is a wrap of the day's play, which is recorded live at full-time in the final match of the day. And last night, Matt Horton and Ian Judson were kind enough to do the first ever episode of Hooters. And that means that we are able to bring you all four coaches yesterday, most notably John Cartwright, who it may be his last game for Hull FC. He has been sacked. Players stayed on the field till he'd done his interviews at full time, and they booed the fans, not the players, booed management when they came on the big screen. They're very unhappy with the decision to dispense with the services of John Cartwright. So his press conference is very newsworthy. So we're going to bring you an entire 16-minute episode of Hooters, smack bang in the middle of today's Good Morning League fans. It's going to come up after the break, but firstly, I will tell you that Nick Meaney converted Sua Falongo's try, and that scoreline now, with getting close to 15 minutes gone at GIO Stadium, is Canberra 12, Melbourne 6. We interrupt this ad break to bring you the news that Will Warbrick has scored in the right corner for the Melbourne Storm. Nick Meaney's conversion attempt was just off to the right. And the scoreline has, it's narrowed. It's Canberra 12, Melbourne 10. Still only closing in on 20 minutes gone. So everything's happening on Good Morning League fans. Everything's happening at GIO Stadium. Coming up, the first ever episode of Hooters.
Saints will win then by 24 points to 14. Tries from Harry Robertson, Carl Felt, Noah Stevens and Jake Davis. 4 from 5 off the boot of Tristan Saylor. Hull, Logan Moy with the opener. Amir Burra pinch one just before the break. And only a Zach Hardacre penalty to show for their efforts in the second half. And everybody stood around, and that is full time here at the MKM Stadium. Saints go top of the Betfred Super League as we start round 8 with this 24 points to 14 victory here over Hull FC this evening. Right, welcome then to Hooters. This is our full-time show taking in the day's matches on both sides of the equator. First of all, this morning at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, it went the way of the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. They defeated the North Queensland Cowboys by 38 points to 6, a convincing victory for Kieran Foran's men, but hampered by the fact that they've lost Tom Trbojevic to a hamstring injury again.
Yeah, it's desperately sad for Tommy Turbo, isn't it? I mean, there was a thought at one point that he could possibly be a Super League target, but people in Australia kept saying, he gets injured quite often, and saying he would be a big money star, and they weren't sure whether he would give Super League their money's worth, that they would have to pay him to come over here because he is injured just too often.
So let's hear now, if you're on the podcast, we'll hear from the Manly interim coach Kieran Foran, whose first thoughts were about the injury to Tom Trbojevic.
Yeah, he's obviously not looking too good at the moment, but we'll wait until we get a scan on Monday to assess the severity of it. Look, the boys handled it extremely well considering the swapping of positions, and Clayton had to go on, and I thought he did an extremely good job coming on at centre, and then Tolu pushed back to full back, and he was outstanding. So really proud of how the boys handled that disruption. I just thought our intent was there from the get-go. We spoke about starting fast, wanting to really go after them through the middle, and I thought the boys did that.
We also mentioned earlier in the call on the broadcast about the North Queensland Cowboys. They may have won the last 4 games, but they've played Gold Coast, St George, an understrength Brisbane, and what's the poorest Melbourne side in about 15 years. And there's been a bit of heaping up there from the fans, and it's not really going to ease the pressure on him, is it really?
It's not, no. It's a results business, we know that, but they just you've got to be convincing as well, haven't you? If you're going to be a successful coach, if you're going to be a successful side, it's all about the results, and sooner or later these things will catch up with you, won't they? And you've got to, he's obviously got to do something to convince people there, hasn't he?
Right, so for those listening on the podcast, we're going to hear now from the North Queensland Cowboys head coach Todd Payton.
Thought they were harder at the contest with more energy. Pretty flat performance, I thought, early on for me, and then compounded that with 42% completion rate in the first half, and made 16 errors through the whole game, 11 in our own end, so got what we deserved. Made 80 more tackles, so the score could have been bigger, to be fair, but thought we tried pretty hard in that second half. We made them kick from inside their own half, four sets in a row, but in the end we had a couple of big moments, big momentum swings when Tom McHaley gets one disallowed and they go down the other end, 12-point swing. Braden Burns should have scored in this corner and they go down the next set too, so that's what I saw.
So that was Todd Payton here at the MKM Stadium this evening. St Helens have gone top of the Betfred Super League after defeating Hull FC by 24 points to 14. Hull led 12-6 at half-time after Trisham, Logan Moy and Amir Burra, with Jake Davis replying for St Helens, and Ian Judson, who's been with us for the call tonight. I've got to say, Ian, I thought Hull were full value at half-time. They dominated field position, didn't they, in that first half? And they did really, really well. Yeah, they did. And Hull, St Helens were being their own worst enemies with their indiscipline. They kept handing Hull territory and possession. And this is a Hull side that have obviously been galvanised this week by everything that's been going on. And and they were aggressive in defence. They went after St Helens and they tried desperately to knock St Helens out of their stride, and they did that for the first 40 minutes certainly, and they were by far the better team in the first half in what was a fantastic game, a fantastic end-to-end game. But as they always say, Ian, never write off the Saints, and they came back really well in that second half, didn't they? And the try that clinched it from Harry Robertson was an absolutely phenomenal finish, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's capable of that, though, isn't he? And we know that. That's why he won Super League Young Player of the Year last year, when a lot of people in these parts were saying it should have been Lewis Martin. Harry Robertson took it out for reasons that he can do things like that.
So let's get the thoughts of the Saints head coach Paul Rowley, who was talking in the press conference earlier.
It was a really easy half-time for us. We were down there a couple of minutes and we were out of there. I just think physicality, they were just off a little bit in that regard. I thought they were very good, so credit to Hull in that respect. And we wanted to get them into a grind for longer periods and be a little bit more consistent in how we're going about our business. I think when you get to a time where you're just a little bit fatigued due to workload of players, etc., I think the effort was still there, but it was probably a little bit disconnected. And the result is it can get a little bit messy in how we controlled them defensively in that first half. But they fixed it up and we nilled Hull in the second, so I cannot speak highly enough of them. Yeah, I totally agree. I thought George and Noah coming on, and the stint that they did was a really important stint for us. Again, complemented by the experience, obviously, and Al and Leesy coming back. Clem did shorter minutes, but he's been an absolute Trojan for us. So and Shaw's in there as well, who's ended up in the back row. So again, it worked without disruption with injuries and stuff, but it was gritty. I would say it was a gritty performance. We had to find a different way, and credit to Hull again. What they did defensively, they challenged us, and but we found we found our rhythm in that second half.
You
And
look happy with the performance or the results?
I'm made up with it, to be honest. Just for the lads, really, because I think as a club we've done it tough, and I think they deserve that result. They deserve to go into a break, which they've got now, 3-4 day break. With a good feeling, and I'm really pleased for them. I mean, yeah, first and foremost, we would say that we knew it'd be an emotional night in that respect, and that would add to the start in particular that Hull would produce, and they did just that. So no surprises there. But John's, like all coaches in Super League, he's a good bloke. He works hard, and so. As coaches, we all have sympathy and empathy for everyone's situation, but we know what the job's about, and we as a club and I as an individual and the coaching team wish him all the best, but we wish Hull all the best as well with the rest of their season and their future. So.
That was the Saints coach Paul Rowley after their 24-14 defeat here. 24-14 victory here at the MKM Stadium tonight. For Hull then, Ian, there's been too much noise around the city this week with everything that's going on. The announcement that John Cartwright will be leaving at the end of the season, the fact that his son Jed isn't going to get a new deal next year as well, and he'll be leaving at the end of the season. But fair play to those 17 boys in the black and white tonight. They've turned up tonight and they have put on a performance for their coach.
They have, yeah. They turned up. They showed grit and determination and character, didn't they? And they were, it's almost like that they were on a job of saying, look, this is why we think you're making a mistake by letting John Cartwright go. Obviously, the powers that be have got their reasons, which we will find out in due course. But the lads in the black and white tonight, they can hold their heads high. They can be proud. The fans, what I will always say is the fans have asked them to try their best to beat St Helens, and they've done that, and I don't think anybody can ask any more of them. The fact that they've gone down in the end, but when you see stuff like the Logan Lloyd chase back to catch Tristan Saylor,
that was fantastic, wasn't it? Yeah.
That shows you, even at that late stage, they were still giving it everything they'd got.
So let's hear then the thoughts of the Hull FC head coach John Cartwright after their defeat here to St Helens tonight.
Really humble, to be honest with you. Really disappointed for the players that we didn't get a result. Look, they gave their everything. Probably a bit of a continuation of some patches that we've been delivering. In the second half, we just turned some ball over when we had a chance to really go for the throat. There's a couple of really questionable things. You're not going to get. It doesn't matter now, but sometimes when things don't go your way, they don't go your way. But so proud of the playing group. Again, we lost another couple of players tonight with injuries, and whoever we put out there just kept turning up. Really humbled and just very proud to be part of such a good group of guys. It's hard to put into words. You don't expect that. That's not why you do the job. But I think it just says a lot about the people in the town. I was told before I got here that as long as the team goes out and has a crack, that the fans will get behind them, and they have. They've got whilst the results aren't showing at the moment. They've got a team they can be proud of. I see nothing but good things ahead for this group. When we can field, or when the club can field its very best side, I got no worry about who they come up against. It's just everyone we play, it's a battle, it's a fight. We give the opposition a fight, but we're just lacking that little bit of class to get over the line. I don't know. I don't know. Excuse me. I've got a couple of meetings early next week, and then be a little bit clearer where we go from there. It's a difficult one. Look, I certainly don't want to let that playing group down. But sometimes these things are taken. They're not in your hands. So I just look at there's I don't want to sort of talk about that too much, because it's the unknown. I'll just be a little bit clearer early next week. Whilst we improved a lot. We improved our win-loss last year, and we're not travelling all that flash at the moment. Just to see that, I really didn't know what to expect. To be honest with you, but it was like I said, more humbling than anything else. The most important thing out of all this, I said, I was asked how I felt the other day, and I said it. And the most important thing now is the club. The club is made up of its fans, and so the most important thing now is that we all put the club at the very head of the list, as that's what matters. It's only been going on a couple of weeks, it is tough, like coaching your son, especially when he's gone through the injuries that he has. No one works harder on getting himself back on the field, it's really difficult watching that as a dad. But you're also his coach. But he's become my minder, I suppose, over the last couple of weeks, and it's I'm just so glad, and I'm lucky that he's here with me. I'm 100% sure that that early in the week, like that's why we dealt with it early in the week. I wanted to deal with it as soon as I possibly could, because it was always going to get out there. There were leaks out there, so we dealt with it. We had a couple of days off, and we come back in. We had 2 really good days of training, and then just a light session yesterday. And I was really confident going into the game that you never can go in and say you're going to win, but I was really confident that they'd give a really good account of themselves. So I'm 100% sure there was extra emotion in the game, but no, the way we prepared and the way we finished the session yesterday, it was just sort of business as usual. At some point I'm going to finish here, so if that's a month, a week, a year, I'll always have fond memories. The town has taken me in. I've got a really good group of friends that I've made that'll be friends for life. And I love the town. They love their team. They're passionate about it. Very friendly, and just the playing group that I've been involved with is just as good a bunch of guys as you'll ever come across.
That was the Hull FC coach John Cartwright then after their 24-14 defeat here to Hull FC tonight. You've been listening to Hooters here on rugbyleague.com with Matt Horton and Ian Judson. Thank you very much for joining us. Plenty of rugby league action to come over the weekend here on rugbyleague.com.
Hope you enjoyed the first ever episode of Hooters. We can't squeeze that into the show every Friday. It's just too hard, especially with Molly coming up as well after the next little break. But let me give you an update from GIO Stadium. Very, very close to half-time. And the Melbourne Storm, they've come back from 12-0 down and hit the front. So let's go through the details. For Melbourne, they lead 16-12, and it's tries to Sua Falongo in the 11th minute, Will Warbrick in the 15th, and Nick Meaney in the 25th. And it's 2 goals from 3 attempts to Nick Meaney. For the Canberra Raiders, Asimi Sasangi in the 4th minute, Corey Horsburgh in the 8th, and Ethan Sanders has kicked 2 from 2. And just a short time before the break, the Raiders had another try disallowed. So just closing in on halftime there. Melbourne 16, Canberra 12. Melbourne 16, Canberra 12. Coming up, The Mole. And by the way, if you're listening to this show live, you can find it on your favourite podcast platform by searching WLF Kicks. WLF Kicks. And if you're listening on the podcast, this show goes out live on rugbyleague.com, a 24-hour rugby league radio station, every Thursday and Friday, 9 a.m. UK time. So stick with us. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tony the Mole Adams YouTube channel, and welcome back to Good Morning League fans. And as he joins us every week, such as it is this week. That's not very good grammar. But anyway, here he is, Tony the Mole Adams. Tony, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, Steve.
Now, you've uncovered a bit of a yarn at the Dragons. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, basically, the fans are just they've had enough. I mean, the Dragons are a basket case. They lost, I think, their last 4 games last year, their first 6 games this year. So their losing streak is up to 10. They play Wayne Bennett's Bunnies tomorrow. It'll probably be 11. They're planning a mass protest demonstration rally, whatever you want to call it, at a game against the Warriors at Cogra early next month. So I'm not sure if Shane Flanagan will still be there at that stage. He's sort of walking a bit of a tightrope, which I believe poor John Cartwright fell off at Hull FC last few days. And I think it'll be a very similar situation with Shane Flanagan if they lose again. But they're really upset at their club's administration, which is just very poor. They don't seem to be doing anything right. The guy they're talking about to come into the club, which is interesting, is your old mate Shane Richardson. They see him as a potential saviour.
There you go. Very interesting. They'd be silly if they didn't approach him, I think, because he's got a great track record. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Scott Drinkwater, he had a chat after the game last week about various. I've done a little bit of a research on him. He had a chat after the game last week on the ABC, I think with Zane Bojack. Hello, Zane. Zane does a great job on the sideline. And about his future because he's been linked to leaving the Cowboys. And then, according to Todd Payten at the pre-match presser during the week, they spoke on Monday about him getting a release. He asked for a release. And Todd Payten said he was optimistic of Drinkwater staying, but a realist about the possibility of him staying because there's a lot more money on offer elsewhere. And that brings us back to the Dragons, Tony, because Drinkwater, that was a club he was most closely linked to. What's the latest there?
Yeah, well, the Dragons are definitely keen. There's also mail that the Dragons are looking at Jareem Buller from the Tigers. The problem there, though, is that Shane Flanagan and Jareem Buller have the same manager, the notorious, shall we say, Isaac Moses. And word is he's told the Dragons, if you sack Flanagan, you're not getting Buller. So it'll be interesting to see how the Dragons react to that. But also on Drinkwater, the Cowboys played yesterday Aussie time, and he had an absolute shocker against Manly. So I think his asking price just went down a fair bit.
Yeah, or either that or he's getting a bit distracted by being sort of the number one player in the media as far as transfers or speculation goes. But now it's a huge game this week, Para and the Dogs, and there's an Eels old boys have been a bit prominent recently. I think they've got a reunion coming up, or they've just had a reunion, and you're saying that they might be in the sheds on Sunday, and the Eels certainly need something.
Yeah, well, it's 40 years since they won their last title. It's the longest premiership drought in history. And so 1986 it was, a team with the likes of Ray Price, Peter Sterling, Brett Kenny, names that are well known over there as well as here, guys who played in England in that era when guys would go over in the off season. But yeah, they're having a special function at this Para Canterbury game because it was Canterbury they beat in that grand final. And I can imagine Ray Price getting in the sheds and grabbing a few of these Parramatta blokes by the collar and saying, get out there and do your best. And if they don't, they'll cop a spray.
Tell us who Adam Doyle is, because maybe your average fan may not know who he is.
Well, he was the Knights recruitment manager, did a good job, brought in a lot of the good young talent that is there at the moment. And he was replaced by Peter O'Sullivan, who's a more high-profile recruitment man. And there's a few clubs looking at Adam Doyle. They've asked me not to name them because it's all very delicate with these sort of things. But yeah, it's I think it's a very understated job at a lot of clubs, recruitment manager. They can really make or break a club. I mean, they're the ones who put together the salary cap, the roster, the jigsaw puzzle that is the salary cap. And if they get you the right players, it doesn't matter who's coaching. As far as I'm concerned, you or I could coach a team put together by a very good recruitment manager. So yeah, it's a very important job, and we've seen what a good job he and Peter O'Sullivan together have done with the Knights. All of a sudden this year they're looking top 8 material after being wooden spooners last season.
Tony, you might be able to coach a team with a good recruitment manager. I'm not sure I could. I wouldn't back myself to do it, to be honest. But then again, anything for a quid. Tony, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy your weekend of footy. Thanks for joining us.
Always, Steve. Talk to you soon.